Welcome back, Brooklyn Nets fans. Some breaking news came out today on August 8th and is the newest part of the Kevin Durant Nets drama that has gone on this entire offseason since June 30th. We're now a month and a half later, and we have this big news just dropped by Shams Charania. In a meeting with Nets owner Joe Tsai, Kevin Durant reiterated his trade request and informed Tsai that Tsai needs to choose between Durant or the pairing of general manager Sean Marks and coach Steve Nash, sources say. Then 5 minutes later, a tweet was made by Charania again. Sources: Kevin Durant informed Joe Tsai that he does not have faith in the Nets' direction. The meeting was described as transparent and professional with a clear message: keep me or the GM and coach. So Kevin Durant has given the Nets an ultimatum: either keep Durant or get rid of the head coach and general manager. Now, for me as a Nets fan, the answer is simple. You fire Sean Marks and Steve Nash, and you keep Kevin Durant with 4 years left on his contract. I don't think it's that much of a ultimatum. It's not like a tough decision in my opinion. I'm keeping Kevin Durant every single day of the week. I know you don't want to have that vibe that players are running the organization, but that's kind of how it is when you have superstars on your team. I'm sorry to break it to you. So yeah, I don't really see the point. I mean, Steve Nash hasn't proven anything. He kind of regressed in his second year as a coach, honestly. I was expecting a lot more this past year. A lot of stuff went wrong. I get it. A lot of injuries, COVID stuff with Kyrie, and the James Harden hamstring stuff. I get all that, but still, Steve Nash individually had an awful season as a head coach. And then you look at Sean Marks, who did a great job of taking this team out of the basement when they were fleeced by the Celtics, and the Celtics ended up with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown as a result. And Sean Marks was able to build the Nets to a playoff-level team. They were able to be attractive enough to sign Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving back in the summer of 2019. But Sean Marks, since that time, has not really done anything that great. I know he made the Bruce Brown trade and the Jeff Green signing, but just on a macro level, he has not done anything that great. And the fact that the Nets lost James Harden in just a span of 13 months was not a good look either. So I know that's not all on Sean Marks, but still, this team has not been ran well at all the past couple of years, and that definitely falls on the shoulders of Sean Marks, ownership. And speaking of ownership, Joe Tsai, the Nets owner, has liked tweets in the past talking about how he doesn't want the players to be running this team, and that definitely concerns me. If I had to sit here right now and tell you guys that I'm confident about Kevin Durant remaining with Brooklyn, I'd be lying. You know what I mean? I just don't feel great about that. I think there is a very solid chance that Kevin Durant is traded. It would suck, and it seems like Boston right now is the number one destination according to betting odds. This tweet from OddsShark on Twitter came out 45 minutes ago. It has the Celtics as a minus 175 to get KD. The next closest team is the Suns at plus 350. So it seems like if the Celtics want him, they can get him. It depends how much does Boston want to give up. Obviously Jaylen Brown's going to be the centerpiece of that package, but is Boston willing to throw in Rob Williams or Marcus Smart instead? Or, do they add Grant Williams to the package or Peyton Pritchard? How many picks? There's a lot of uncertainty with that. We know the centerpieces will be Kevin Durant and then Jaylen Brown. But you got to find out what else you're getting from Boston. How much do they want to give up to acquire Kevin Durant? And Durant is tight with Ime Udoka. Udoka was a Nets coach back in the 2020-21 season. He was one of the assistant coaches, so those guys know each other. They have a good relationship. So obviously Kevin Durant would not mind going to Boston and playing for one of his favorite coaches. So that definitely makes sense. And Boston was 2 games away from winning the finals last year. This could be their big move to possibly, get over the hump. And obviously, a move like that could set you back or make you even better. So Boston has a big decision to make there. But for Brooklyn, the ball is in their court right now. I guess that's kind of a pun intended. But if Joe Tsai, the Nets owner, says, okay, Kevin, I want you on this team more than anything, I will fire Sean Marks, I will fire Steve Nash, that's fine. That's it. You're good. You're obviously going to have to hire a new head coach and a new GM. I'm sure Kevin Durant has some names in mind that he's interested in already. But to me, it's a simple solution. You just get rid of the coach and GM and you move on. I will always appreciate what Sean Marks has done for this Nets organization. They were in a very, very bad spot 5-6 years ago during the times when they were starting Jarrett Jack and Shane Larkin and Thomas Robinson and God knows who else. You know what I mean? Brook Lopez was by far the best player. It was a very rough time. So for Marks to get the Nets from there to where they are now, I know there's a lot of crap going on with the Nets now, but they were in a very good position a couple of years ago to win the finals until the injuries happened. So I will always appreciate what Sean Marks did for this team. As for Steve Nash, I always thought Nash was good with personalities. I always thought Nash would have respect from the players because he was a two-time MVP, had a Hall of Fame basketball career. But that's not the case. It just seems like these players were able to walk all over Nash. They don't really respect him whatsoever. And obviously, by this trade request, you can tell Kevin Durant was not the biggest fan of Steve Nash. And apparently, James Harden did not have the best relationship with Steve Nash. Apparently, the rumor was that Mike D'Antoni, who was a Nets coach the first year Harden was here, they ran a lot of D'Antoni's offensive system. D'Antoni left the Nets before last season. Harden, of course, started last year with the Nets, and Harden was not a fan of the offensive playbook, if you want to call it that, for the Nets, and was not really a fan of what Steve Nash wanted to run. So, yeah, Steve Nash was part of the problem, of course. As I always said, you cannot blame one person for this whole Nets debacle the past couple years, but Steve Nash is definitely a big part of it. So now let's go into parts of the article a bit here that Champs posted, and the whole Durant stated he does not have faith in the team's direction thing was not too much of a surprise, but I think most people believe the Nets had a pretty good offseason. Obviously, the drama was not what you wanted, but you look at strictly basketball moves, acquiring Royce O'Neal for a first-round pick, which is probably going to be a mid to late 20s pick anyway. It's not the worst move if you're competing. Now, if you trade Kevin Durant, I'm not going to like that move as much. But if they're all in for this year with Kevin Durant and Kyrie and Ben Simmons, I don't mind the Royce O'Neal trade. It just depends who's on the team next year. And you have the TJ Warren signing. Yes, there is there's minimal risk, of course, because it's a 1-year minimum deal. But yes, he could get re-injured. I get that. But that's a very high upside signing right there. And you brought back Nick Claxton on a 2-year deal. So, I mean, you look at the Nets rotation, I think this is a team that I would still not pick them over Boston or the Bucks right now. The Nets still have to prove themselves, but I do think the Nets are on that tier with a Miami, let's call it, or even Philly. So you look at the Nets rotation, though. This could be a very good team if they're all together next year. I think Kevin Durant, I wish he would see it the way I see it, but I know that I don't deal with Steve Nash. I don't play for Steve Nash. I don't know what it's like. Maybe it's really bad. I don't know. But the whole direction of this team, quote unquote, is not that bad right now. A team of Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Kyrie, Patty Mills, Joe Harris, Royce O'Neal, KD, TJ Warren, Nick Claxton, and Day'Ron Sharpe as the backup center. That's a pretty damn good team. Now, obviously there's concerns here because Kyrie and Ben are not very reliable players for different reasons. I mean, kind of similar, I guess, but still, those guys are not the most reliable. Joe Harris is coming off of ankle surgery. I get it, but still, this team on paper is pretty damn good. You can argue it's a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. So if Kevin Durant does go elsewhere to Boston, let's call it, yeah, Boston is in a better position right now than the Brooklyn Nets, the Phoenix Suns, who KD wants to go to. They're also in a good position. But if those teams do trade assets to get Kevin Durant, Boston is not going to be the same Boston team we see right now. The Suns are not going to be the same team we see right now. If KD goes to Boston, there's going to be no more Jaylen Brown, probably no more Grant Williams, maybe no more Peyton Pritchard, maybe no more even Rob Williams. I don't know how much the Nets will get for him. If he goes to Phoenix, no more Cam Johnson, no more Mikal Bridges or whoever else they want to add. So that's the thing. If KD goes to these teams, yeah, they're still going to be good, but they're not going to be as good as they are right now. So that's the problem. But I do think this Nets team is good enough. That's why it's sad. I want to see how this Ben Simmons, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving core looks, but we might not get to see it because I have a fear once again that the Nets owner Joe Tsai is not going to side with Kevin Durant. I can easily see him picking the sides of Steve Nash and Sean Marks, which I think would be an incredibly stupid decision, but I have seen the Nets make dumb decisions before. It happens. I know it was different ownership at the time, but I remember the last time a person in the Nets organization offered an ultimatum, they chose to let the guy go, and that was Jason Kidd. After his 1 year of coaching the Nets, it was the year of Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce, their 1 year together in Brooklyn. It was the year after that. Jason Kidd wanted more of a higher position in the front office, and the Nets and Mikhail Prokhorov at the time, the owner, said no to that, and then Jason Kidd departed for the Milwaukee Bucks at that time. So yeah, the Nets are not a stranger to saying no to these requests, but this is Kevin Durant, and I saw it said on Twitter by somebody, it's very easy. You can get a GM anywhere. You can get a head coach just about anywhere. You can't find Kevin Durant elsewhere. You really can't. There's guys on his level, but they're not obtainable. Guys like Giannis, not obtainable. Guys like Luka Doncic and guys like Kawhi Leonard when he's healthy, not obtainable. You have one of those guys right now in Kevin Durant, one of the best 5 guys in the league, in my opinion. and you're going to let that walk because you want to keep Steve Nash, an unproven coach who's not even that good, and a GM in Sean Marks who has proven the last couple of years that he is really not that guy. Like, Sean Marks did a great job of building this team up, but then once he got to that top level, he couldn't put on the finishing touches to make the Nets a championship contender. Even last year, if you take away the Kyrie vaccine crap and you take away the Joe Harris and the KD injuries, the Nets were still flawed last year. The Paul Millsap signing was garbage. LaMarcus Aldridge had nothing left. Blake Griffin lost a lot of his ability from the year prior. Like, the offseason sucked. The Nets were a small team. It was all centers and all point guards. There were no wing players. That falls on the GM. I know a lot of stuff that was out of Sean Marks' control went wrong last year, but even if that stuff went right last year, the Nets were still a flawed roster. Sure, they could have won based on their talent, but they had no wing players. The only reliable wing player, if you don't include Kevin Durant, was Kessler Edwards, a second-round rookie at a Pepperdine. So that is not what you want to see from your GM. He definitely had an awful offseason and a very pivotal Nets offseason last year. I thought the Nets this offseason did pretty well with the TJ Warren and the Royce O'Neal thing, but we'll see. And even the Nick Claxton contract, that was good as well. But they also let Bruce Brown walk without offering him a contract. That was a bit of a questionable move, to say the least. And honestly, this is not the best move for the Nets' leverage. I mean, there was those thoughts of the Nets can just hold out and not trade Kevin Durant and he'll just show up anyway. But now after this ultimatum thing, I don't know. I mean, I would still find it hard to believe he sits out any games this year, but still, it seems like right now he is either set on having his own head coach and his own GM or just getting the hell out of Brooklyn. So I know he doesn't really have control over that because he's on the first year of a 4-year deal. The Nets could hypothetically just not trade him at all and they would still be able to keep him. But, yeah, I mean, obviously you want all your players happy. So Kyrie's back. He seems committed to the Nets at least for one more year. Of course, Kyrie picked up his player option. The Nets would not commit long-term to Kyrie. And I'm sure that kind of, didn't sit right with Kevin Durant. Of course, those two are very good friends, so I get that. So from a fan perspective, it's easy to say, Kevin, this is a good roster. If you guys stay healthy, you're going to be a good team next year. Like, I don't just come back and run it back one more time. But once again, I don't know what it's like to deal with Steve Nash. I don't know what it's like to deal with Sean Marks. I don't know what it's like inside those closed doors of the Nets organization. We get some leaks here and there. We hear some stories here and there. Some stuff I believe, some stuff I don't. But the fact right now is that Kevin Durant wants a new head coach and a new GM. And that's up to the Nets owner, Joe Tsai, to make that decision. If I was owning the Nets, it's an easy decision. I'm keeping Kevin Durant. But I don't know how Joe Tsai feels. This is a guy who is a very, very rich man. He has never really had to listen to anybody in his life, probably. So to have to listen to an NBA player about what to do with his organization is probably not going to sit right with him. So we'll see. But if the Nets are serious about winning a championship, you keep Kevin Durant. There's no doubt about it. If the Nets are going to be more of this is Joe Tsai's team and blah, 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 we're not going to be ran by players, then Kevin Durant's probably getting shipped off, and that's just how it's going to be. It's going to suck, and I would hate it because the KD era would technically only last 2 years. He didn't play his first year here, so yeah, I mean, that would really suck, but I'm just tired of the drama. I just want it to end at this point. Obviously, I just want him to stay, but we're going to see what happens. Hopefully, we get our answers soon. The information's now out there, and now Joe Tsai has to make that decision. So leave in the comments, what do you think happens the next few weeks here with this Nets organization? Will the Nets have a new head coach, new GM, and keep the same roster? Or will the Nets keep the GM, keep Steve Nash, and have to trade Kevin Durant for some assets? Let me know in the comments how you feel, and I'll talk to you guys next time.